At the edge of the Jordan River, as the first light of dawn breaks across the water, Jesus stands in silence. In this quiet moment, Jesus begins the mission that will change the course of history. Led into the wilderness, Jesus walks alone across the vast desert. In solitude and testing, Jesus prepares his spirit for the path ahead. Returning to Galilee, Jesus steps into the synagogues and speaks with authority. Through the words of Jesus, the promise of the kingdom begins to unfold. By the shores of the Sea of Galilee, Jesus calls ordinary fishermen. With a simple invitation, Jesus transforms their lives and gives them new purpose. Through villages and dusty streets, Jesus moves among the broken and the sick. With compassion in his touch, Jesus restores hope where there was despair. On a hillside overlooking the crowds, Jesus teaches about mercy, humility, and love. The voice of Jesus carries across the wind, reaching every listening heart. When others step back in fear, Jesus reaches forward. With fearless compassion, Jesus heals the outcast and restores dignity. Inside a crowded home, faith breaks through barriers. Jesus forgives and heals, revealing that the power of Jesus reaches both body and soul. In golden fields, Jesus tells stories of seeds and soil. Through simple parables, Jesus reveals deep spiritual truths. On a storm-tossed sea, fear grips the disciples, yet Jesus rises, speaks peace, and the winds obey the voice of Jesus. In a distant land overshadowed by darkness, Jesus confronts torment and restores a troubled man. The authority of Jesus overcomes chaos. Even in his hometown, where doubt lingers, Jesus continues to teach. Rejection does not stop the mission of Jesus. Sending his disciples forward, Jesus entrusts them with the message of hope. The work of Jesus begins to spread beyond his own footsteps. In quiet places of prayer, Jesus seeks strength. In communion with the Father, Jesus prepares for what lies ahead. Before a hungry multitude, Jesus takes simple bread and multiplies it. In the hands of Jesus, scarcity becomes abundance. Across the moonlit sea, Jesus walks upon the water. Fear turns to awe as Jesus reaches out and lifts the sinking disciple. In sacred gatherings, Jesus declares himself the bread of life. Through the words of Jesus, deeper understanding is offered. On the road toward Caesarea, Jesus asks a profound question: "Who do you say I am?" Through this moment, Jesus calls for faith that sees beyond the visible. As Jerusalem draws near, Jesus speaks openly of suffering. The path of Jesus leads not to earthly power, but to sacrifice. Around village fires, Jesus teaches that love is the greatest command. In every lesson, Jesus reveals the heart of God. On the roadside near Jericho, Jesus hears the cry of a blind man. With a touch, Jesus restores sight and renews faith. Entering Jerusalem to the sound of praise, Jesus rides humbly through the gates. The city welcomes Jesus, unaware of what is to come. Within the temple courts, Jesus confronts corruption. With righteous courage, Jesus clears what was meant to be holy. Challenged by religious leaders, Jesus speaks truth without fear. The wisdom of Jesus silences accusations. In an upper room lit by candlelight, Jesus breaks bread and shares a final meal. Through this act, Jesus establishes a covenant of love. In the garden at night, Jesus prays with deep anguish. Yet even in sorrow, Jesus surrenders to the will of the Father. Before a shouting crowd, Jesus stands silent. In dignity and restraint, Jesus endures injustice. Along the road to Golgotha, Jesus carries the cross. Each step of Jesus bears the weight of humanity's brokenness. On the hill beneath a darkened sky, Jesus is lifted upon the cross. Even in suffering, Jesus speaks forgiveness. With his final breath, Jesus completes the mission. The sacrifice of Jesus opens the way to redemption. Then, at the break of a new dawn, the tomb stands empty. Jesus rises in victory, conquering death itself. And before ascending, Jesus commissions his followers. The mission of Jesus continues, carried forward by those who believe.